Hello, Mr. Daniels here. We have finished our odyssey through My Louisiana Sky. This is the final chapter. Chapter 20, the aftermath of the hurricane scene, the exciting climax in chapter 19. Here we go into chapter 20. Let's just go ahead and get started here and wrap this up. The summer sun soaked up every trace of rain that Hurricane Audrey brought, but she left her mark anyway. Electricity poles were down, and uprooted trees lay scattered on everyone's yards. Miss Eula's front porch was completely swept away, but that gave her tongue something new to wag about for a while. Our parish lost one life in the hurricane, but Cameron Parish lost hundreds. The fact that Sada did without electricity for a couple weeks and had a lot of cleaning up to do seemed like a speck compared to what the people in Cameron went through. The floods came up on them so quick that one man got to the roof of his office building and saw his family float past him. Our church decided to donate the new piano fund to the church in Cameron. Even Sister Margaret said, "It's the Christian thing to do." Fall arrived in Sada like welcome spring, and everyone talked about the upcoming party Mr. Thompson was giving for Louisiana Lady. The whole town was ready to burst by the time the camellia buds opened. Even Aunt Dora Kay came up for the big event. It was the first time I'd seen her since she took Magnolia back to Baton Rouge. She'd been downright shocked when I told her I wanted to stay in Sada. The day before she left with Magnolia, we walked down to Sada Creek and I broke the news. Aunt Dora Kay frowned. "But you'll be expected to keep an eye on your mama and take care of your household." "I know," I answered. Two tiny lines formed between her brows and she straightened her shoulders like she was trying to make herself taller. "Well, life won't be easy," she snapped. "I guess I'll take it one step at a time." When I said that, Aunt Dora Kay shook her head and held my chin for a long moment while her eyes grew misty. Finally she said, "Tiger, you've gone and grown up on me." Aunt Dora Kay brought a new boyfriend, Kurt, to the Thompsons' party. They rode from Baton Rouge in his shiny blue Thunderbird. He sure was nice, but his fish lips and curly blonde hair, he didn't look a thing like Elvis. A reporter from the Alexandria paper came to the Thompsons' nursery for the party. He wanted to write an article about the Louisiana Lady, but his attention turned to Daddy when Mr. Thompson told him about Daddy saving the camellias before the hurricane hit. The reporter tilted back his hat and rubbed his chin with the tip of his ink pen. "So you knew when Hurricane Audrey was coming before she hit?" "Well," Daddy said, "I didn't rightly know it was a hurricane a-comin'. I just knew something was going to happen because them birds, they've been sitting in our trees all night a-carrying on. Them birds knew before anyone. The way I figured it, they was sitting in the tree trying to figure out which way to go. You know, like when you got a hankering to go somewhere, but you don't know where. Anyway, I told Miss Thompson that we better take care of them Louisiana ladies before we regret it, on account of all the work Mr. Thompson did. You know, he's worked on this flower for 8 long years. He had the idea way back then," and the reporter interrupted. "Oh, getting back to those birds, is that how you predict the weather?" "Well, I don't know if you can call it real predicting. I'm just doing what my daddy taught me. He always said, if you listen close enough, the earth talks to you." When the photographer stayed to take Daddy's pictures next to the camellia, Daddy said, "Oh, it wouldn't be right without Mr. Thompson. After all, he's the one who invented the Louisiana Lady." So the reporter motioned Mr. Thompson into the shot. Then Daddy cleared his throat and said, "It wasn't like I didn't have any help that day. I couldn't have done it without Miss Thompson and my daughter Tiger and Jesse Wade, and of course all the other fellows that work in the nursery." There we all stood, like a big crowd, waiting for a parade to march while the photographer's camera flashed. I saw blue dots the whole day. After the newspaper reporter and photographer left, we ate dinner on quilts spread by the Thompsons' yard. Mama looked like a pretty sunflower in the yellow dress she had made. She and Aunt Dora Kay sat side by side, both of them barefooted, drinking from mason jars filled with Mama's extra sweet lemonade. Kurt squatted in front of them to take their picture. Right before he said, "Say cheese," Mama slipped her arm around Aunt Dora Kay like it was the most natural thing to do. I felt something catch in my throat, and I was relieved when Jessie Wade ran up to me and said, "Come on, let's play ball." It was just like old times, only better. This time Dolly, Annette, and Jackie trotted over to the ball field. Abby Lynn sat glued to her mama's side. I discovered hurricanes weren't the only thing Abby Lynn Anders feared. When school started, she refused to dress out and play baseball in gym class until Coach Masters gave her a direct order. That day, when she was up at bat, the kids laughed at her clumsy swings. I reckon that was why Abby Lynn hadn't wanted to play ball all along. She was afraid of making a fool of herself. On my way to the field, I moseyed over to Abby Lynn and asked, "Why don't you come play ball with us?" She batted her eyelashes. "Oh, that's okay. I'd rather stay here." Mrs. Anders nudged her shoulder into Abby Lynn's. "Oh, go on, honey. It'll do you some good." Abby Lynn frowned at me, but she stood, brushed off her bottom, and followed me out onto the field. When I looked at her, I recognized something in her face. The "I wish I was invisible" look. I didn't know what came over me. I don't know whether it was the puffed up pride that I had for Daddy about saving the camellias, or the way Mama's arms surrounded Dora Kay's shoulders, or just the way the sunshine felt good soaking on my back. But for some reason, I felt kind of charitable toward Abby Lynn Anders. "Abby Lynn," I whispered, "I'm the catcher, so when you get up to bat, listen for my voice." She scrunched up her face at me, and I shrugged, thinking, oh well. But when her name was called, she got up at home plate to bat, and she looked over her shoulder at me. When Bobby Dean pitched his show-off fastball, I watched it spin toward Abby Lynn and waited for the exact moment to say, "Swing!" Abby Lynn swung the bat and knocked the ball to the ground about 3 feet in front of her, just as Jessie Wade sent me a puzzled look. He was playing shortstop, but he didn't move to the ball like usual. He probably thought there was no reason, since Abby Lynn just stood there. She must have thought her hit wasn't any good, since the ball only traveled a puny distance. So I stood and hollered, "Run, Abby Lynn, run to first base!" And for the second time in her life, Abby Lynn actually listened to me and took off for first base. I cut my hands over my mouth and called out, "Woo-wee!" Jessie Wade threw down his mitt. "You're not even on her team." "Yeah," Bobby Dean yelled from the pitcher's mound. "You're on our team." I smiled and said, I guess I plumb forgot." I put my fingers to my temples and pulled, making my eyes all slanty like, "Maybe my ponytail's too tight." Bobby Dean was still fuming, but Jessie Wade's dimples popped out. Watching him smile at me like that made me blush. And at that very moment, I felt kind of special, knowing that Jessie Wade Thompson gave me my first kiss. In the distance, the purple hull vines were brown and shriveled in the Thompsons' garden. I squinted, making the garden blurred, trying real hard to see 3 sunbonnets bobbing up and down between the brooms, but it was no use. That day had passed like Hurricane Audrey blowing through Sada, like Granny Dine and Magnolia's visit. And as I looked into the tall pines reaching toward the my Louisiana sky, I reckon that's the way life is supposed to be. Some days are like Sada Creek, smooth and calm, letting you stay a child for a little longer. And others are like Hurricane Audrey, taking hold of you and spinning you above the pines, making you grow up a little quicker, kind of like cutting your hair on a full moon day. All right. Amazing ending of the book here. Hey, love the baseball scene. You got to love Tiger's sportsmanship. Instructing, helping Abby Lynn out to swing the bat there. And you got to laugh at Bobby Dean and Jesse Wade and their reaction like, hey, you're on our team. Come on, don't help the other team out there. They're pretty competitive boys there. But how much growing up has Tiger done throughout this book? My dear, she's chosen to stay in Seder with her mom and dad. And, when you ask the question, who is going to fill Granny's shoes, here you have a 13-year-old girl who is stepping into some pretty big shoes. And you know what? I've read this book 100 times. I still believe it this time I read it. I think Tiger can begin to fill Granny's shoes, and she may not be Granny, but it's definitely somebody that can run the house, that can provide support for Mama and Daddy, someone that's got a good head on her shoulders, and someone that has changed into a girl that is very sure of herself at the end of the novel here. Well, hey, we are officially done. I am so excited to finish this this second book online, and who knows, maybe we'll put another one online here in a little bit. We thank you so much for all the people who listen to me, and God bless everyone. Have a wonderful day.